Jo Rae Perkins is the definition of a perennial candidate. The Republican from Albany is a former secretary of the Oregon Republican Party, and over the years has run for everything from Albany City Council and mayor to U.S. Representative to the U.S. Senate. This time, she's running to take on U.S. Junior Senator Jeff Merkley, a Democrat who she lost to in 2020. But first, she'll have to defeat state Republican Senator David Brock Smith in Tuesday's primary to even get the chance to challenge Senator Merkley in November. Jo Rae Perkins is here to talk about her candidacy and the state of politics in Oregon. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ken. It's great to be here.
Well, you've already lost to Senators Wyden and Merkley. You're running again against Senator Merkley.
Yes, sir.
Why do you continue to run?
Politics is an interesting industry. Most of the time, you just keep going until you win or you give up. But success goes to those who persevere. So there's no training to be in the political arena other than doing it. And sometimes it's timing and getting your name out there, especially on a statewide race.
Now, you have a proposal to end sanctuary cities and states, which
Yes,
Oregon is, of course, and we're sitting in a sanctuary city here in Portland. Why that proposal? What's your thinking on that?
My thinking on that is when somebody is here unlawfully and they've, excuse me, and they've been arrested and tried and they're put into a non-federal jail because maybe they haven't been tried at a federal level, and local law enforcement decides, well, we're just going to let them out, but they're not here legally. And then they just let them out. They're bringing harm, possible harm and danger to the citizens. I'm pro-immigration, absolutely, as long as people are coming in the front door and not sneaking into the back door. So this would take care of that problem. And as I travel around the state, this is an issue that resonates with everybody that I've talked to so far.
To follow on that, you live in a highly agricultural district. So
Yes,
are
I
you
do.
concerned that eliminating sanctuary city protections, going hard on immigration will hurt your economy in your district?
Not at all, because Oregon has a guest worker program. So people are here legally working, and that's perfectly legitimate. And we've had the guest worker program for years. Sometimes the employment department says, well, use local labor, which several years ago I happened to talk to a hazelnut farmer, and he said by the end of the second day, he was on the phone talking to the state saying, I need my employees up here from Mexico. I'm going to lose my harvest because the workers he brought in, they work slow and they didn't know what they were doing. So he got permission to do that. And so it's just a great example of, yes, we have programs already in place. They can come in, they can work, and they go back.
The administration, the Trump administration, is challenging Oregon's vote-by-mail system. What do you think about vote-by-mail the way it is now, and would you want to see it changed in any way?
I don't necessarily like the vote-by-mail. We have a whole generation of voters, though, who've known nothing but vote-by-mail. And there is a convenience to it. I don't like the fact that ballots can be accepted up to 7 or 8 days after Election Day as long as they're postmarked. But that's still up to the county clerks to whether or not they're going to even accept that envelope because they aren't always postmarked. So I think that there's some holes that should be fixed if we're not going to get rid of vote by mail. And yes, there is an effort to get rid of it. Again, I don't know that it would pass. I will vote for it if it makes it on the ballot. Again, that gives us voters a choice. Do we want to have vote by mail or not? And I think that should go out to the public to decide.
Do you support the SAVE Act?
I support the Save America Act, yes, sir.
You were in Washington, D.C. on January 6th of 2021.
Yes, I was.
You were not among those who entered the Capitol. Why were you there, and what do you think about President Trump pardoning those who were arrested that day?
I was there for a number of reasons. President Trump said, if you have concerns, be here. Well, having been the senator nominee in 2020 against Jeff Merkley, and I actually have evidence of votes vanishing. I was tracking 2 times every day for several days, and all of a sudden we had votes vanish, and then votes came back. Not 100% of what was lost, and I only tracked the Senate race, so it was all the candidates running in that Senate race. So yes, questions that have never been answered. And I asked for information from all 36 counties and never got that information. So I went to Washington, D.C. to redress my government for my grievances. I was exercising my First Amendment rights. I was also there with a registered media press pass. So I was also there as a journalist. I interviewed a lot of people that were there that day and videotaped. President Trump obviously has the authority to pardon people. There are some people that might not have been pardoned, but I understand that it was not a 100% complete pardon. I honestly have not looked into it deeply, but at some point you have to trust the president, and hopefully they're doing the right thing.
Right. The idea of pardoning them is something that you basically agree with. Then.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do you still support QAnon? Are you part of QAnon?
How do I say this? There was Q, and Q was a group of people or a person, I don't even know, who posted on a bulletin board, which I never even went to because somebody else reposted that information. It's old news. It's been years since there's been any posting to my knowledge. So I found it rather interesting. It was kind of like a mystery novel to me of what's going to come up next and the whodunit kind of thing. And we never got, I never saw the end of the novel, if you will.
Were you a supporter of Q?
I was a supporter of them sharing what they wanted to share. I looked at it as, again, underneath the First Amendment, freedom of the press, because it was a form of information sharing. And if we have freedom of the press, we must have freedom to read.
If you were elected, if you managed to get through the primary and say you defeat Senator Merkley, what would be your priorities? What would be your first priorities in Congress?
The number one priority is wildland fires on federal land. Right now, if it's on federal land, the state of Oregon cannot send firefighters in until they have approval from the federal government to start fighting those fires, whether it's rangeland or forest land. In the meantime, those fires are growing. So I have a bill, it's on my website, joraeperkins.com, and people can read that bill. It would give authority, as soon as that fire is sighted on any federal land, the state can send the firefighters in immediately and get on top of those fires. And to me, that is the most critical bill that I have on my website out of the 11 that are there right now.
Jo Rae Perkins, thank you very much for being on Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you.
Next, we often